Everyone, welcome back to the next episode of Drawing with Dave, and here we have the brand new standing desk. I just got this set up especially for how much work we're going to be doing at home for these next few months through the next year, whoever knows how long. This thing has been fantastic already. So on last week's episode of Drawing with Dave, we did the sketch of this creature in Clip Studio Paint, and so this week I spent about 6 hours on stream. And we covered this entire thing using Clip Studio. I condensed the 6 hours down to 30 minutes, and I'm gonna do some commentary and talk about it and just hang out with you guys. I really love the program. This video is not sponsored by them. I just enjoyed it so much last week. I wanna continue working with it and keep working with it as we go forward. So many of you seem to love the program, so I'm excited to dive into it myself. Let's go. All right, hopefully everybody had a good week this week, and welcome back to another episode. Thank you so much for joining me. So this was entirely painted on my Twitch this week, which you can always find me over at twitch.tv/DaveGrecoArt. So a lot of this beginning part was me trying to figure out a lot of different brushes since I haven't used so many. I tried a bunch of the default brushes, and then we had some great users through Twitch and ArtStation that did give me some custom brushes that I imported, so I got to try out. And so one of the best things I'm finding so far is just to find a new workflow, right? You know, I get into this place where I kind of do the same thing over and over, and something I always talk about is try to break that up and keep pushing yourself. And I found that I myself wasn't doing that anymore. I kept doing the kind of same process. And so I didn't mind diving to something that felt entirely new. And that's one thing that I felt about halfway through rendering this thing is like just using a different medium and swapping it up. Like I felt like this new type of painting excitement. It was awesome. I loved working on this piece. Even if some parts of it were hard to work on and they didn't feel like it was working that well, and sometimes they were a struggle to render, I still super enjoyed it and working with the brand new medium. And so you kind of see that when I'm working with some of the eyes here and trying to drop color on. How's that working? And what, is it making too much of a mess? And so I was actually testing out some pen pressure situations with this antique and making sure that I was getting the right pressure with my brushes. So it was cool though. I like to see if I could get different texture with some of my brushes, how much of like a paintbrush or a chalky brush. And that type of, trying to explore all that was pretty awesome. I really enjoyed it. And so we actually had a ton of input from a lot of the community and chat while painting on it too, especially as we got further and what we wanted to change about him and what we wanted to add to him. And I really kind of bought into this character, and he was a lot of fun to develop. He kind of felt more like a concept piece. And I don't do a lot of concept work on the channel or on stream lately, even though it's been my career for 15 years. So it felt pretty good to get in that to tackle. So even right here, you're seeing that I'm going through a lot of different brush work. Trying some like oily brushes and all that type of stuff. See what works, see what doesn't. And that has kind of all been the process. I try to keep my layer management to a non-psychotic level, since sometimes I can definitely add too many too many layers, sorry. And so I try to keep it semi-reasonable. One big thing I wanted to show with this character was to kind of have him look like a little friendlier, right? I didn't want him to be like just a kind of a scary monster. I wanted him to look like he could still be a good guy as well. So hopefully everyone out there, you guys are all pushing your own artwork and see what you guys can do. I've really been enjoying the program. Like I said, I'm going to be spending a lot more time in Clip Studio. There's certain projects I need to finish in Photoshop right now, but I think as far as like loose sketching and getting paint down and really just exploring ideas, Clip Studio has felt really, really good, and I think it's broken me out of my box and something that I needed. It was quite the blast. It's funny, I think I actually spend probably like a third of the time on the face exploring brushes before we actually dive into the rest of his body. But sometimes you just gotta take a little bit of time. One thing I noticed, a lot of people that came into chat were surprised to see this type of blending and going on in Clip Studio. I think a lot of people are used to seeing more kind of like flat color and webcomic work done with the program. But I actually really like the blending and the brushwork going on that I could do. I feel like I could get some more kind of solid areas of color and kind of blend it around. And that felt pretty good to me. Because I can still use a lot of like the kind of layer functions that I use in Photoshop as far as multiply layers and overlay layers. If I needed to really get some dark and light areas to pop. And so, usually right now, I was just cleaning up a lot of everything. I was kind of cleaning up the line work around the sides, trying to find some more interesting shapes in the mouth. Where can we put some highlights? I really hadn't figured out too much of the lighting. And so even like right here, I actually took that horn shape. I was like, I don't know if he needs horns here. I actually thought it looked pretty cool if they were ears. And so that's one thing that's kind of nice too, is don't get stuck on whatever is your preliminary sketch. You can always keep making like pretty broad changes right on the fly. And so I was like, we'll make little horns, we'll get some ears going. And I think that might be more interesting shape than just a bunch of horns sticking out all over the place. And so I definitely want more kind of these like deeper blues in some of the shadow areas for sure. And I feel like if I can get like enough like brush work going around on the head to make these like little individual shapes that are more interesting, I don't have to figure out like a lot of specifics. Like I don't need to figure out like, oh, this wrinkle line on his forehead connects to here. But I don't want like his whole forehead to be like one solid block of color. If you can break it out into like little individual shapes or little nooks and crannies, you can kind of like make a lot of that up, and it's probably not super important right now to kind of figure it all out. Yeah, I really enjoyed kind of how clean I was getting some parts of his face and all this rendering. That's actually one thing I really enjoyed about working on this piece, is kind of how clean I could make a lot of the line in the color work. So that felt pretty good. Yeah, so definitely if you guys have what you guys want to see for the next episode, which it may be in a week or two, I've kind of like overloaded myself with work once again. But once I get through most of it, I will get back and get some more episodes of these out to everybody. We're getting super close to 100K, and that is crazy exciting. We've come a long way as a YouTube community, and you guys are phenomenal for supporting me through this entire journey. I can't thank you all enough. Seriously, I owe you all so much right now. Keeping me inspired, keeping me working. It's been a really crazy year, and sometimes it's hard to stay inspired and working and creating art through all of it. But I think creating art and all this is a really good way to kind of bring us all together at the same time. I feel connected to so many people because we're always creating art and pushing things, and just kind of our creative spirits. It sounds corny, but sometimes I do feel like we're all kind of intertwined, all us artists of the world, right? So I just really want to thank you all for that type of support and being here. It really means a lot. Yeah, so really just I was figuring out some more shapes for the horns, cleaning up the chest area some too. Some of the line drawing, some stuff was working to get some preliminary stuff, some wasn't, so I don't mind throwing like flat color on top of it. As long as I still can see the cell shapes underneath, it seems like I can go over it. So I was actually starting to figure out the shoulder pad here. And then I think one point while working on this, I realized like this is a really large object and it's covering up a ton of interest on the piece. And I wasn't really in love with the shape design that we were doing for the shoulder piece. And so I was like, we should just like take this entire thing right off. I think it's gonna be way more interesting if we see this kind of like really kind of big back muscle and shoulder shape kind of coming down around the backside. And I'm so glad we went with that decision. I think it actually made the character a whole lot more interesting. And taking those kind of big decisions is gonna help your work a lot. Like I said, you're not married to any little thing that you figure out. So it really was just me going back and trying to define a lot of the muscle shapes between the shoulder and from his back muscles to his neck to his chest there. You can fudge it up quite a bit because he's got like a weird neck coming down that's going to bring his head that low anyway. It's funny, a lot of people thought I was actually doing some Guild Wars 2 fan art, which I could definitely see how it might look like that at first. Yeah, so I wanted to break up the shoulder shape with something. I thought these kind of more pattern runes kind of carved into the skin. Would just be like a nice little shape and bring some of those pinks that we see in his face around the backside, and that could just bring a little bit more visual interest. You know, sometimes it's worth just throwing those ideas on. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And we definitely gave him a pink nipple. It is sometimes you gotta do it. And so really it really is like a lot of this process all the way around. Cleaning up a little area, adding a little bit of line, adding a little bit of color and shadow color to it. And just kind of doing that process as we go. And that's, you know, I get the question a lot of like, Dave, when is a piece done? When do you feel like a piece is done? And that's usually kind of like a big indicator for me, is I feel like I've kind of gone across the entire painting and everything is pretty clean to the point where it doesn't bother me anymore. And I guess that's a big thing, is that I've gone over a lot of the preliminary sketch and line drawing, rendered it out. I've got some decent lighting on it, and there's enough contrast and the piece reads, then I can usually call it quits from there. Yeah, it's the same thing, but like, I think leaving some of those underpainting while you're painting on top does a lot. So if you look at like that part near his shoulder that goes into his biceps, you know, it's not like perfect, you know, anatomy right there, like his forearm is going into the biceps. A little weird, but you know, I was fine for this type of piece. But you can still see some of those like warm colors underneath where the shoulder meets the biceps, and that type of stuff that sits underneath the painting gives the painting like a lot of life and depth, and you know, I don't know, just like a lot of mass to it. It sits underneath it instead of just like completely covering it with a flat color. That kind of, it feels like a piece of like gold sits underneath the skin. And I feel like that brings a lot of the piece to life for me. And sometimes those things are just like happy accidents that you get. Sorry, one second. I need a little sip of my coffee as we go. Get a little scratchy throat. I hope there's not too many pauses like this. Sometimes if there's a pause and something, I might be looking up reference or something. I think I was looking up actually like bodybuilder shoulders. It's a good way. You know, a lot of especially for anatomy, especially if you're doing these big characters, like looking up like bodybuilding reference and like, you know, a lot of people that are like super fit, just to see how defined their muscles are. Even if you don't want to go as defined with your own muscles, at least you can see where they are, and then you can just tone them back a little bit if you need to. It's always a good thing to do. And speaking of reference, if you guys haven't checked out, I actually have the Bradley reference photos down in the description. If you guys are ever looking to pick up some amazing reference hand shot done by Noah and Rachel Bradley, I have a link down in the description. Check it out. Amazing shot reference for you to use for any of your illustration projects. Not to mention, they are both two very amazing people, and supporting them just feels awesome. They deserve it completely. They are pretty amazing. Yeah, so I'm still just going around cleaning up some line draw, some like edges. One thing we kind of had spend quite some time on later is the legs, especially the folded leg. It looked really weird to me. I was trying to figure out kind of how much to tweak it, and especially when we cleaned up this kind of inside area too. We took a lot of armor off, so he's pretty nude. Chat wanted me to paint a whole lot more, but I figured we'd keep him pretty bare at the bottom, at least for this piece. I think we gave him a little belly button at first, but I think I ended up taking it out. I think we decided he'd be born from an egg, so he wouldn't have a belly button. That works for me. And then I ended up, I think, pushing a little bit back, kind of where the back of his waist and his butt would be, because it seemed like it went back pretty far. So that's something to tweak. But that's what's nice about working on a piece like this. You can kind of keep tweaking these shapes as you go. Like, how does every shape relate to the shape next to it? And then, you know, you keep going and going. How these colors bounce around. This is a part of the painting that is the most fun for me. like you have some good structure down and things are working okay. You see, the layer count's not too bad. It's not too crazy with the layers. Most of the time I make a layer because I just didn't know what I was doing with the program and I didn't want to like really screw something up. That was kind of a fear I was having the whole time. But what's great about the programs already is that like I feel like I can do most of what I already do in Photoshop in Clip Studio. Like I didn't really feel any different besides just kind of my my instinctual stuff that I usually click into just because I've been working in another program for so long. But as far as like a final piece came out in the end, it didn't really feel that much different to me. Yeah, so a lot of this when I bring a lot of these colors down, and I don't want to go too crazy with it, and then I'm even focusing the saturation on those lines. Like I don't want just like he's got glowing lines all over him and then just becomes really distracting looking piece. You know, it's just being like a little bit more subtle with his anatomy. I don't want to bring too much attention to it, at least right now, when I don't really know what I'm doing with a lot of the lighting. You know, even a piece like this, you don't have to go too crazy with the lighting either. Kind of is what it is. So yeah, this piece took like 6 hours, which is actually probably longer than a piece like this normally would. That's actually probably quite a bit longer, but I think a lot of it was just taking my time with the software and then just hanging out with chat, which I always enjoy so much, even if it makes a piece take longer. But that's kind of why I do it. I like to hang out with everybody and get their input, and then we just have a lot of fun while we paint this stuff. Yeah, I think I left him with one leg for quite a while until I could kind of figure out what we're gonna do. And I think at one point here we decided to go like a little bit more pirate with him. There was some suggestions with chat, so we gave him some some big earrings in his ear. I think we gave him like this little goatee, and then they wanted some hair and some type of top knot thing coming down. Okay, there was leg attempt number 1. There's gonna be a whole lot of those. And then it was the idea of getting some of the hair in, which I actually thought I added a lot to it. It was a nice little motion to add to it, and then it actually fit in perfectly right in the middle between his horns to give this little hair shape up there, which I thought was pretty cool. So, you know, I love getting ideas from everybody. We can really start pushing pieces just a little bit further as we go, as we work it, which is super, super nice. And then I wanted to give like a little bit of rim light on the back to kind of be coming over the shoulders. You just have to be really careful with rim light, like I always say, because you really can flatten a piece out with it. But I thought it'd be a nice way just to kind of push the shoulder area forward a little bit, and I thought it looked pretty cool. But like I said, it's just something you have to be really, really careful with. You just have to make sure that light, at least a little bit, looks like it's coming around the form, and it's not just like some crazy hard edge line. That's just super important. Because a well done rim light can really make a piece pop, right? Then too much rim light can really make a piece look like, you know, cardboard sitting in front of something. So that's something you always have to think about. Yeah, so even this process that we're seeing so far is something we're just going to carry through all the way to the end here. Yeah, start pushing some of the purples on his little back spiky things. What they are, I don't know, but we went with it. I started to like the shapes they were making and like the negative space in between the shapes. I thought it was working pretty good for the character. Alright, was this leg number 2? Let's give it a whirl. Does it work? No, it's way too small. Looked weird. Alright, foot number 3. Nope, 3 didn't work. 4, nope, 4 was weird. Oh yeah, then I gave up, tried to straighten it out. This is number 5, which actually was just even stranger, we thought. Having it come straight out. I thought we were gonna do it. I was like, maybe he's doing some weird leap. I was like, no, that's bizarre as well, so 5 is gone. Let's see how 6 goes. Because I like the idea of him floating. I just liked that little ridiculously small drop shadow underneath of him floating. So I didn't want to put his foot on the ground. You know, sometimes if I can't get a part to work or like a limb to work, I'll just erase it, you know, and be like, you know what, I'll come back later. And we'll try another couple rounds of things. I think sometimes I can kind of spin my tires too long at one spot if it's just not working. I just feel like I'm wasting time, and I want to keep my momentum going forward as we keep working on the piece. That just always feels pretty important. All right, number 6. 6. All right. And this might be a version of 1, even though right now, I look at it, it almost looks like exactly like the first one we drew. It still seems kind of short. It's strange looking these after the fact. But I think I brought up the heel some. We try to do some things to kind of help that process and how it was shaped. I'm more interested at this point to see how I repair some of it. Now we're going back in doing some highlights. He did get a knee pad on, which I think actually did help a little bit. Probably because it mostly helped probably because it was just covering up. But I think putting the heel back, and then there's like a little bit of claw in the back of the heel, I think it's helping it. So as you can see, I actually stayed pretty zoomed out for a lot of this. Sometimes I don't realize how much I stay zoomed out. People ask me that a lot. How, you know, I always actually feel like I'm zoomed in, but I really did not even zoom in much. It's actually kind of crazy. You know, I think I would benefit from spending more time zoomed in and really getting like a lot of really specific details in. You know, I think for a while I tried to make myself stay zoomed out so I could always analyze the entire piece at once. You know, so I'm making decisions based on things all over the piece that I can see. But I think sometimes my work could benefit of like me really noodling out some really specific areas, getting some really cool detail, and then coming back out. So that's a good lesson for me too. Maybe I'll refocus more on that on the next piece. Now, I wasn't really sure what was going on with the end of the tail. Clearly that part in the middle got a little too thin, so we had to thicken that a little bit. It looks like he's got more kind of like a poison mushroom tail or something. Yeah, we were just going around before, small little details, small little highlights. But even like his little gauntlets in his hands, like I just feel like I need to spend like you know, a ridiculous amount of time really detailing that stuff out, especially for like a painted sketch. I didn't think we had to do a deep dive into every inch of this piece. Now getting some more kind of the brighter highlights, a little more pops of saturated color, always helps a lot. And guys, this has pretty much been the whole piece. I think we're getting right down to the end here. Seriously guys, thank you so much. We popped some more color at the top, and it's almost about done. And then I think right here we can pop over and show everybody the final. Here it is. And yeah, this is the first rendered painting in Clip Studio. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's episode where we sketched it, and then this one where we painted it in. Guys, thank you so much for always being supportive of me and the channel. You all are amazing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.